Okay, we'll begin. Question. Should I get an aliya the Shabbos before gimmel tamuzz, even though the rebbe is still nasi? So, to explain the question, the Baruch didn't write the question properly, I think. We know that after Shvat, the rebbe wrote a letter in honor of the first Shvat, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the first yahrzeit, where the rebbe said that there are minhagim, what one was we should do to commemorate, to celebrate, to get inspired on the yahrzeit of the Friedricher Rebbe and the Stalkus. And amongst the things that he wrote was to get an aliyah the Shabbos before. Now comes Gimel Tamuz, so the Bacher is asking if he thinks the Rebbe is still nasi, considers the Rebbe is still nasi, so therefore should he get an aliyah before? So the question I think is a bit different because the Rebbe always addresses the Friedricher Rebbe as the nasi, and the Rebbe still says to get an aliyah before Shvat. So I don't think that's really a connection. The question is different. The question is asked because we know that there are many Lubavitcher Chassidim that say that Gimel Tamuz nothing happened, and it's not considered a Istalkus, a yahrzeit. However, there are many Lubavitcher Chassidim that feel that Gimel Tamuz is a yahrzeit, is a Istalkus. So those that feel that Gimel Tamuz is a yahrzeit, is a Istalkus, so for them, all the minhagim that apply on Shvat apply on Gimel Tamuz as well. And just like the Rebbe continues telling us that the Friedricher Rebbe is the nasi after Shvat and still do all those minhagim, so too over here, even though the all Chassidim believe that Rebbe still are nasi, they should still get all the minhagim. However, those Chassidim that feel that Gimel Shvat there's no yahrzeit, there's no istalkus, so for them the question is, Gimel Tamuz. I'm sorry. So those that feel that Gimel Tamuz nothing happened, there's no yahrzeit, no istalkus. So for them the question is, should they get an aliyah? That's really so. Really, those that strongly believe that Gimel Tamuz nothing happened and there's no yahrzeit, they don't really have a question. By them it's pashut that you don't get an aliyah and that's it. So B'meila, that's pretty much answering that question. I'll leave that at that. The different opinions of what you should personally do, you could probably ask your personal mashpia. Or you can ask me differently in a different way, so then I can answer. Question: I'm not in yeshivah. Can I still have a mashpia? I don't understand the question. Every chassid should have a mashpia. Every yid should have a mashpia. It's an instruction from the Mishnah. Seilach Harav. A bacher complained to me that last week I said that the rebbe stopped talking about mashpiim after a certain point, and he was like, "What do you mean?" And I think he misunderstood me. I don't think that I said that Rebbe doesn't want people to have mashpiyim today. I said that according to Rebbe Yamin Klein, was one of the Rebbe's secretaries, and he's a person that you can trust in that what he says. This is the Rebbe's opinion. What happened, that he's saying the Rebbe stopped talking about it after the incident we mentioned last week. But I don't think that means by any stretch one should not have a mashpia. And if you're out of yeshiva, it makes no difference. And if anything, the opposite. If you're in yeshiva, you're hearing from the Hanholas yeshiva how to behave. You're hearing all the time what should be done, and there's a mashpia of the yeshiva. If you're out of yeshiva, I think it's even more necessary to have a mashpia. Al kol panim, yes, definitely you have to have a mashpia, even if you're out of yeshiva. Question: why does it say that in Gemara Saita when Yosef ben Yeuzer ish treda and Yosef ben Yehuda or Yosef ben Yechon, different gesais, ish Yerushalayim, when they passed away, batlu ha'eshkolos, they're the first ones that were arguing. So at the end of Masechta Saita gives a whole list of when that person passed away, this stopped. When that person stopped, there was no one like him anymore, basically. A whole bunch of lists, a whole bunch of Tanoim and Tzadikim and Lahavdil even Rashoim, that when that person passed away, there was no one else like that anymore. So one of the things it says that from when Yosef ben Yeuzer and Yosef ben Yehuda and Yochanan passed away, there were no more eshkolos. What does an eshkol mean? Eshkol means a cluster of grapes. And what it means is, eshkol, cluster means there's a whole bunch of things on it. So the Gemara says, Isha, koil, boy, everything was within them. And when they passed away, there was no one anymore that had everything within them. So the Baruch is asking, ma kesher, to the fact that they had the first machlokes. I'm not sure the question, but that is the answer. Because it says the first machlokes we ever had in Torah was the machlokes between Yosef ben Yeuzer and Yosef ben Yochanan. Their machlokes was, do you do smicha on Yom Tov? Smicha doesn't mean making somebody a rabbi. Smicha means when you bring a korban, you put your hands on the animal and lean on the animal. The shayla is on Yom Tov, was once permitted to do it or not. That was the first machlokes, meaning there was discussions all the time beforehand by Klal Yisrael. But a machlokes where one Rav says this and one Rav says that didn't exist until then. And therefore, they passed from their times and onwards, no one can say, I have everything. Because you have everything, you have your psak. My Rav says differently. And then it got more and more machlokes. And that is why, until there are times, anyone that learned Torah could have the entire Torah within him, but after their times, you can't have everything, because even though you might know all the opinions, but you can't go with it 100% because you're going to have to take a side in halacha l'mais. Machmir, even if you're machmir in all of them, so I'm machmir, but I don't have the other opinion. He says to be mekel. I'm not having his opinion. If I don't have a koil boy. I don't have all the halachas and Torah in my day-to-day life because I'm machmir. So then the other opinion I don't have. I don't have that opinion. Machmir doesn't do smicha or not. If you did smicha, then you, according to one opinion, did something wrong. If you didn't do smicha, according to one opinion, you did something wrong. Do smicha with one hand. It's not an option. Question, what's better, to say Tehillim and Shabbos Mevarchim earlier, alone, or to do it later with the minyan? So I'm going to be a bit hypocritical because I'm going to say what I think is the right thing to do, but I do differently. I think the right thing to do is to do it later with the minyan. I myself do it earlier, but maybe my justification is that, like most Bachrim, it takes me a lot longer than the minyan to say Tehillim. There are a number of people amongst Klal Yisrael, amongst Klal Chassidim that say the Tehillim very fast, within an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes. And in every shul, that's the person that goes to be chazan on Shabbos Mevarchim. So most Chabad shuls, within an hour and a half, it says done. This most speedy chazan for Shabbos Mevarchim Tehillim is David Bryan's grandfather, or Meir Shmukna's grandfather, Rebbe Lipskel's stark. He does it in, 45 minutes, 55 minutes? Mashu Kazah? So he's always the chazan in 770, but well, not anymore. Oh, he stopped already? I haven't been in a while. So, but most of us, for me, it takes me over 2 hours. So if I'm going to start with the minyan, I'm going to be it'll go into davening. So I always start earlier. Now, if I'm starting early, I don't calculate exactly. It'll take me 2 hours for the minyan. So I start whenever I can. Whenever I wake up at Shabbos morning, the earliest I can. Usually, I'm still saying the end of it while the minyan is starting, and but ideally, if you can say it at the same speed as the minyan, then you should do it with the minyan, because that's the takana of the rebbe. Say with the minyan. But I think that in my case, I have some justification. Yeah. For davening, yeah, but not for Tehillim. I don't know if that's accurate. Because I think it's important to finish. That's my hergish. That you have to finish the Tehillim, Shabbos, and Varchim. And if I'm going to start with the minyan, I won't be ready on time for davening for sure. So that's my cheshbon. I don't have a source for it. Yeah. Ashkama means early, whatever. There's no one does Ashkama today. Ashkama means earlier than to a regular week. Hashkama means before the minyan. That's the question. Hashkama means so you be mekayim the minyan, the hashkama more than the tzibur part. Nah, I think the minyan does it hashkama. That's enough, because for a Shabbos morning a Chalabavitch minyan, that's hashkama, because they usually start davening at 10 o'clock, whatever. Now they come to shul at 8:30 or whatever it is. Yeah. I'm just saying the reality. In every shul, that's what ends up happening. In our shul here, also in Postville, Rabbi Herzl's on stark. He's the chazan every Shabbos and Zorchim. He does it in an hour and 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. He's always finished. I can never whatever. I can't keep up. Okay, question. At the end of the day, if mussar works, why don't we learn it? So the question is based on the question is if it works or not. So assuming that it works, why don't we learn it? And the answer is that indeed we are supposed to learn it, as it says in Tanya, and it says in Chassidus, that if someone needs mussar, then he should be learning into mussar. The reason why mussar could work for many people, and yet we don't do that, is because we aim for higher. And mussar works, but it works in a weaker kind of way. And we want to get more, how do you say it, more power for your dollar. What's Lashon? So Lashon, You're paying for your buck, you want to get more. So you can spend an hour and learn Chassidus properly and thoroughly. If it's done well, it can accomplish more than what mussar can do. Now what happens is people don't learn Chassidus thoroughly. Mussar, even if you're not on such a level that you're looking to work on yourself and you're trying to work, so mussar speaks your language a lot quicker, so mussar could inspire, affect people even that are not so motivated. Versus Chassidus, I think you have to be a bit more involved. So there are people that Chassidus doesn't talk to them. It might be a good idea to try to make a seder of learning mussar to inspire them. But just to point out that within Chassidus, there's many ma'amorim that are mussar style, especially from the Friedrich Rebbe, the Mittel Rebbe. So it is enough if you want to do mussar and that kind of way, that's what I would suggest you go to. But again, if even that doesn't work for you, and mussar works for you, then it says in Tanya that you should be learning mussar. But you Chassidus works for you, so why should you do it? It works. Question, does the Rebbe speak anywhere about the Avodah of Zara Levatola? So there are many, many letters in Igros Kodesh that the Rebbe writes to Bochrim, where Bochrim asks the question about this Avodah. However, in Sichos, whenever you have a question about looking for a Sikha, the place to look is, I wanted to show you the Sefer. It's called the Mafteach from Rabbi Zelikson. It's a big red Sefer, big and thick, and it goes to, he has an index of every subject, anywhere in the Rebbe's Torah where the Rebbe talks about it. So, Mafteach the Sichos Kodesh, but he has from the Sichos and Sefer HaSichos and everything. I couldn't find it, I was looking for it. I thought it was over there. So the Mafteach over there, I looked it up over there, and he has a Maramokim, the night of Pesach, Tavshin Yud Gimmel, where the Rebbe talks about Heilach Ma'anya, and the Rebbe says, this is in the Sichos also, the reason why we say hey and not ho, is to be mesakin what Yosef HaTzadik did, that Yosef HaTzadik gave the Mitzrim Zara, and then he says Yosef is the Sfira of Yesod. Now we know that the 10 spheres correspond to the human body. Chesed is droya yamina, Gvurod is droya smala, Chesed is the right arm, Gvurod is the left arm, and the Yesod is the bris. We say this by Pasach Eliyahu. So Yosef, Yesod is connected to the inyan of the bris. And he says, because Yosef gave the Mitzrim that Yesod connected to kipper, that's from them kum der cheta yadua from chatas neurim. Chatas neurim is another word for zara levatala. Was das is a chet chomer by Yosef, it's a very harsh sin. Bisa the steht in Sfarim, was is angenommen in Chassidus, it says in Sfarim, that are accepted in Chassidus, as the siba from the marichus ha-golus is derech. The reason why we're in golus now is because of this sin. So usually when someone is asked, why are we still, you couldn't find it. The reason why we're still in Golus today, whenever you ask a regular Lubavitcher Chassid, why are we still in Golus? The answer is, and should be, is there is no reason, no justification. We're not supposed to be here. But here in Tavshin Yud Gimmel, the Rebbe is saying that the reason why we're in Golus is because of this Avodah, because of the Avodah of Zara Levatola. And the Rebbe then says, so he goes on and on and on, but he basically says that the night of Pesach is a time to make a tikkun for this Avodah, and that's why it's connected. Pesach is Doch Yitzias Mitzrayim, which is connected to Geula, and that's the Hemshech HaDvar. So here the Rebbe talks about it very bekitzer relatively, but in other places, like I said, in the letters, the Rebbe usually just says to be Masiach Das and to move forward. This is a Sikha. Oh, this is the Sefer. Thank you very much. Look, and if any question you have on anything of the Rebbe, if the Rebbe talks about anything, it's not a complete, as huge as it is, it's mamish, tons and tons, it's very small, small font and all that. As big as it is, it's not a complete thing. There were things that I looked for and I couldn't find, and I texted him personally, asked him, and he didn't know, and then later I found it. So but it's the first place to look for when you're asking a question if the Rebbe talks about something. Yes? Yosef HaTzadik? No, he gave the Mitzrim food. By the hunger, when he was running Mitzrayim, he gave them food. So he's giving the kipper chayas. So even though practically, I don't know if he could have done differently because he's the Mishnah of the Melech, he's in charge of the country, he has to support the people that are there. But the Rebbe says that he should have asked the Eibishter, but the bottom line is that he gave the goyim chayas, and therefore that's why there's a number of things that happen. This is one of them. Question, why is the Tanya called Tanya? So there's a number of reasons, or say 3 basic reasons. One reason is, the simple reason is because that's the first word of the book. And many books are named after the first word. For example, Bereshis is called Bereshis because it's the first word. And so to all the Chumashim and most of the Parshas, they go by the first word, not all the Chumashim. But Dvarim is not, and also Shmeis is not. They're both Eila, right? But and also Bamidbar is not, whatever. No, so 2 of the Chumashim, Bereshis and Vayikra are the first word, Shmeis and Dvarim are the second word, and Bamidbar is, what is it, the third word, fourth word? Daber Hashem al Moshe b'midbar Sinai. Whatever. But whatever, it usually goes by there's a number of midrashim that are named after the first word. Fifth word. And then, so that's one reason. The second reason is that it says there is a kipper, there is a negative force which is called Tanya, and by learning Tanya we have the power to destroy that kipper, so we call it Tanya to say we're knocking down the Tanya. A third explanation is Tanya is the same letters. Lo shomea? I don't know. I don't know what kind of kipper it is. A third explanation brought down is Tanya is the same letters as the word Eson. Eson means power, strength, which the Tanya empowers us to reveal the might of our neshama, and that is why we call it Tanya, to bring out that in. All right. 3 questions over here on the same subject. What's after bridges and Kugelach? There's a machlekes between you and Mendel Zirkin what to do by aliya and Kugelach. I agree with you. What are the Makoides? Is there a difference between Ashkenazim and Sephardim? Third question, is Kugelach considered Avodah Zara? It really looks like it. So, Kugelach, the source for Kugelach is in Shulchan Aruch. Kugelach has many different names to it. We call it in Yiddish Kugelach. However, in Hebrew it's called Chamesh Avanim. In English it's called Jacks. It's also called in English knucklebones. Knucklebones is another name for Kugelach. Why is it called knucklebones? Because the way the game began about 2,000 years ago is they would take bones of different animals and they would play them, they would throw it up and catch on different ways of doing it. And there's sources, they have archaeology findings all over the world, over 2,000 years ago, pictures, statues of people playing and sources for it. In Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Nun Vav, Hilchas Treifis, and Hilchas Treifis talks about the bones of the animal that are kosher or not. So, the Mechaber talks about a certain bone, and he says about the Teimis Hagidin actually, and from there he gets to the bone. He says this is a small bone, there's called arkoim, and it connects the Sheikh, the Arakuba, the different parts of the arms. Ve'etzem zeh, this bone hu shemisachkim be'atinoy shekoidin kugel. This is the bone that the children play with, which is called kugel. So kugel, each one is called a kugel. So a few of them are called kugelach. The shach and the taz both right. Oh, that's in his language. In our language, we call it chich. I don't know what chich is, but that's another name. So that's where it comes from. So the fact that the Mechaber writes it obviously shows there's no shaykhs to Avodah Zarah whatsoever. There are games that people claim are sourced in Avodah Zarah, but this one is for sure not. Gambling. You could gamble with going for a walk also. So this is the source for it. Now, how to play? So that's all the people play their own. Something which always fascinates me is you have bachrim in yeshivah that they break rules right and left. They don't follow any rules. But when they play a game, whether it's kugelach, basketball, whatever it is, mitamol, they're like, okay, this is the rule and I have to keep to it. I found it. Yeah.
It's chess. So it means chess.
No, it's not. He says kugel. Or maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe they use the bones. It makes no sense because chess has different pieces. So it's interesting that Bachum, when it comes to games they're playing, the guy that breaks all the rules, now I'm out. Yeah, you have the guys that cheat. Oh, he fouled me, didn't foul me, say there. But in Bagadol, they know this is the rule and they keep to the rules. You're playing basketball, you're not going to walk around the ball because travel. So you can't do that. So when it comes to other things, Shulchan Aruch and whatever, I don't care. When it comes to the game, mitamol, no. That's an example of Kabbalah soil. A person accepted upon myself, Shulchan Aruch is more important, right? Yeah? So when it comes to the game, the Bacher accepts, if I'm playing basketball, these are the rules. If you're playing soccer, you're not going to pick up the ball with your hands and run down the field because it's a soccer. So you go in, being accepting upon yourself, these are the rules. So when it comes to the seder of the game, the Alatayriniks accepted upon themselves to play in such a way. I don't recall a machlekes with me, Mendel Zirkin about aliyah. I never heard of such a thing before. I don't know who made that up. But you should just know that my claim to fame growing up for many, many years was that I was the brother of the Kugelach champion. My older brother, for years, till today, you speak to the people from 40 years ago in Al-Taira, he was the Kugelach. I think he did all 24 halakim in one time without getting out. It was like amazing stuff. And he was, for years, everybody knew he's the big mumcha. And also, you should know that in 770, when the Rebbe would come in, there were times, if I remember correctly, hearing that kids would play Kugelach right outside the Rebbe's room, with the magnet over there. And the Rebbe sometimes, I don't know if he made a comment or not, I was never as good as him, no. Whatever, I was like all the kids. I wasn't, but he was known to be the biggest mumcha, the biggest champ. I remember him playing against 4 other kids. Like they all had turns one after the other, and he was alone. Like they get out the second guy continues, and only afterwards he played, and he still beat them all. Akopanim. Yeah, very, very special. Okay, question. Do you have to wear shoes during davening? Do Avelim only daven without shoes? So I didn't look up the Avelim part. The Avelim have to wear some kind of shoes. Regarding regular people, so it says in Shulchan Aruch, Siman Tzadik Aleph, Seif, hey, I'll tell you Shulchan Aruch. You cannot daven with a briefcase, a suit, whatever it's called, a backpack, and you cannot daven without something on your shoes. On your feet. If the minhag is by you, that everybody wears shoes. If everybody walks around barefoot, he continues talking about socks and shoes and all that, and he basically says you're not allowed to wear tapkas, no? Slides, you can't wear slides, slippers. You can't wear slippers if it doesn't have a back. Now, the main thing that he says is that it has to be something which you'll wear in front of important people. Now, today, people have lost all class. So, in my opinion, the correct way to measure it is, how would you go to a chasana? Now, to your siblings' chasana, you're going to go dressed up in Shabbos clothes properly. To our friend's chasana, so there are people today that will walk into our friend's chasana wearing jeans and a t-shirt and a hoodie and wearing Crocs, but that's very not right. It's not mechubadik, it's not okay. If you're going to a chasana of a friend, you're not expected to dress with Shabbos clothes, but you're expected to go in presentable, and you're not expected to walk in with Crocs. Now, if I walk into a chasana today, look around Bochum, will you see guys with Crocs? I assume so. But I think it's wrong. I mean, maybe some Crocs look nicer. Only by the Lubavitcher chasanas. Okay, I don't know if that's a statement, the nicht. Only in Razak. The point is that it's not bakavidik, it's not okay, and so just the kind of shoes that you would not wear to our friend's chasana, you should not be wearing that footwear when you daven to Hashem. If someone is really comfortable wearing Crocs all the time and doesn't get it at all, what the issue is, then maybe he's allowed to daven with that as well. But it's a thing which it's a very gray area. It's not something which can be clearly explained. So, l'chayra, sneakers is the same idea. If you're not going to walk into l'chayra, same thing. Even though today it's common to wear sneakers by chasanas for dancing. So sometimes the chasan kala themselves, they put on sneakers because they want to dance without removing their shoes. Yeah, so l'chayra, it shouldn't be sneakers, but today people don't have a concept. Today, it's an important person. I'll wear whatever I'm wearing. They don't understand. The people lost class today. They used to be understanding. This is an important person. I'm going to get dressed appropriately. Today, people don't understand that. Next question. Do you have to stand by Chazorah Sashatz? So, in Shulchan Aruch, Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, Simin Kuf Chavdalitz, Siv Zayin, the Alter Rebbe writes, Yesh Omer are those that say, Shakol ha'om yamdu. Everyone should stand up. K'shechayzer hashatz atfilo. When the chazan does chazor hashatz. The reason why, as kevan shav mechavnim v'sheimim matfilo ma'ashat, you listen to the shliach tzibur v'shomea ka'oinu k'ilu mispaladim ba'atzmon. It's as if you're davening yourself. So you should be standing. This is an opinion out there. Alter Rebbe reads it yesh oimrim. So yesh oimrim automatically means that this is not like you must have. Everyone has to do it. And the poil the minig is not to do so. There's some Gedolei Yisrael were makbid yet to do so. Most of them were not makbid on that, as far as I understand correctly. The Rebbe did not stand for Chazara Sashatz, so Bepashos we are not makbid on that. Till Kedusha, yeah. Till Kedusha you're standing because you have to finish Manasri, but afterwards, yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. What? Continue to stay standing, for that's like the Pashos, that's not because of Chazara Sashatz, that's Pashos beside the practicality. Because you have to stand with Tachim anyway, so sitting down and getting up again, that's a simple way of learning it. You can argue with me. Question, why do parents have a candle in the room on Yom Kippur by night? So I already mentioned last week the Gemara that someone that talks about what a kala goes into the chuppah. So even if he's done 7 years of mitzvahs and good things, Achmad al-Islam, he can lose it all and have this terrible destruction and bad things happening to him. So we don't talk about these things. The answer is, because that's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. That's the answer that you should know. Question: how much effort should you put into things to make a keli if Hashem controls everything? This is a huge question. Huge question. If you guys remember earlier in the year on one of the podcasts, one of the young light that was on the podcast said he shared this question, and he remembered he said that he has a barbecue once a week, and he has the Shara B'tachin, and they learn, and they had this question, and he finally got the answer. And my understanding is like this: the ishtadlus has to be. It's not to get the bachim so much, but it's first of all should not take away from anything in Torah and Tefillah. Which means if you're a shtadlus, the work is going to require you to miss a tefillah, then chas v'shalom, then for sure that shtadlus should not be done. If it'll cause you to miss a shir kavua, it shouldn't be done. Now, you can't learn a whole day, you have to support, you have to do a shtadlus. But you have to have shiurim kvuim, and something which is reasonable. A balabah should have at least perek echad shachris, perek echad arv, schidas rambam. If your shtadlus causes you not to be able to do that, then it's too much. So that's number one. Number two, the ishtadlus has to be in a way that doesn't take over your mind. If it causes you to constantly think about it, the more you get into something, you think about it the whole time. In that case, it's too much. It should not be done either. And number three, you should ask Yedidim Evinim. The Rebbe famously said, any questions in business, you should ask people that are mumchim. You ask Yedidim Evin in the business and say, is this considered going overboard, I'm going crazy, or this is a legitimate amount? Somebody wants to advertise. He wants to sell his house. So he wants to advertise. He has to make ishtadlus. You have to advertise. So you can tell your next door neighbor, I'm advertising, I'm selling my house. Or you can start buying in every single magazine or newspaper or every website and start posting all over the place, I'm selling my house. So those are two extremes. Telling your neighbor is not enough. I mean, unless your neighbor's a good yentam, will spread the news. But posting everywhere is also too much. You see, you're spending a lot of money, you do too much ishtadlus. So you have to ask, what's the normal amount of exposure that I need for this? And ask. So over here, any ishtadlus. So again, the first two things is that beruchnius, it cannot take away anything beruchnius. Secondly, it can't be such a way that takes over your menuchas hanefesh. And thirdly, ask a yedid mevin what is considered normal, what's considered the right thing to do. You had a question? Someone raised their hand before? Oh, yeah. Buying a lottery ticket could be considered a ishtadlus, but you didn't even will tell you that's not a ishtadlus enough. And normally that's not good, even though the Rabbi Gurkov told me that the Tzemach Tzedek said that teachers should buy the lottery. Because al pitava, they're not making any money, so that's the only way. So I make sure to buy at least once a year. This way, if I Rosh Hashanah, my ksivach simatov included money, then I should buy it. I also try to buy on Tisha B'Av because they say that winning the lottery is very bad for you. It's bad mazel. So on Tisha B'Av, it's bad mazel. So buy the lottery on Tisha B'Av. No. I read it somewhere once and I liked the line, so I always repeat it. I don't think I ever bought on Tisha B'Av, but I always think about it. I try to buy at least once a year, between Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah. No, sometimes I'll buy a couple times a year, but usually once a year, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. I try to do Chodesh Adar, because Mazal Di Goiver, and it's Chal Bari Mazle and all that, but sometimes I forget also, and then I lost it. I would have won if I would have won at that time. But it's no. Yedid Mevin will tell you it's not a good ishtadlus, and also if you're really a fantasizer, then it's going to take over your whole day. Because I'm winning $20 billion now, so what am I going to do with this money? So the whole day I can't daven and learn. So then it's too much, and you can't. Well, you talk like that. One of my brothers, so he used to buy the lottery. He told me, I'm buying the lottery just for the fantasy. It's so geschmack to spend the whole week thinking, I'm going to win. A while later, he stopped buying. I said, why you stop buying? I said, I don't need it anymore. I can fantasize without it. It's already enough, so it's good. I can just think that, if I would have won, it's already enough for me. So why spend the $2? Okay, question. Why do we say the bracha mishanes abrius by an owl, monkey, and elephant? Does that mean they were not originally created with the rest of the animals? To clarify, the bracha mishana abrius means that Hashem changed the creations. So the bracha is assuming Hashem changed the creation, so they were created differently. So the simple explanation why we say the bracha is only on these is because they are the most similar to our people. Koif and kipper, at least. meaning an owl is the only bird that has two eyes in front of its face, or all birds that are like that are considered an owl. So all birds have eyes on two sides, so it has a somewhat human-like face, and so too a monkey for sure is more similar to a person, and a pila, elephant, is known to be very, very smart, so because it's so close to the person, it's like, wow, Hashem made different, they made a human, but different than a human. That is the simple pshat. However, there's a famous pshat brought down on one of the Mefarshim of Mishnah called Melech Shloimer, and he writes that I heard from a big chacham and chassid, his name is Rebbe Shulam, that he asked, why Dafka these animals make a bracha? And he said that this is something which I think a lot of you don't know. It's the Gemara in Sanhedrin. It says, Bizman hamabul or Doira Flogo, because the people messed up, Hashem turned them into monkeys and elephants. Many people have heard that, I think many Bachrim have heard, that monkeys come from humans. However, most of you have never heard that elephants come from humans. But here it says it came from humans. So Taka, according to this pshat, with the Bachars under owls he doesn't mention. So I don't know how to get into the owls. But according to this pshat, the Bachar's understanding is correct. Because you're saying mishanes habriyos, because this monkey and this elephant used to be a person. Hashem changed him from a person into becoming an animal, into an elephant or to a monkey. So you see a monkey, you see an elephant, you can realize that it's could have been you. Al Kolpanim. Ad Kan.